The Golden Goose. There was once a woodcutter who lived with his wife and 3 sons in a small cottage on the edge of a great forest. The youngest boy was nicknamed Dumbling or Simpleton, because he was stupid. Everything he did turned out badly, no matter how he tried, and his brothers jeered at him all day long. His parents were just the same. "Our youngest is a fool and no mistake," his mother would sigh, and give him a burnt piece of cake for his tea. Dumbling never seemed to mind though, and was always happy and smiling. One day the woodcutter had to cut down one of the very tallest fir trees growing in the forest. There it stood, its branches stretching out to the winds, the topmost ones reaching for the blue sky. But it had to come down all the same. The eldest son said he would do the job for his father. His mother packed him a special lunch bag with some rich fruit cake she had just baked and a bottle of her best wine in case he felt thirsty. He soon found the tree because his father had marked it with a big white cross. He took a look at it, but being a lazy boy, decided to eat his lunch before cutting it down. He found a nice, shady bank and settled himself comfortably. The wine was cool and refreshing and he was soon tucking into a big slice of the cake. Then he saw a little, old, gray-bearded man coming along the path towards him. "Good morning," said the little man politely. "I see you have a fine lunch, and it's a long time since I had a bite to eat or anything to drink. Will you share your cake and wine with me?" "What an idea," said the woodcutter's eldest son. "Certainly not. I have never seen you before, I don't know you and I don't want to know you," he added rudely. "Besides, I need all the cake and wine for myself." The little old man looked at him hard for a moment, then he disappeared into the forest. When the woodcutter's son took up his axe to cut down the tree, the axe slipped and cut his arm. The wound was so deep he had to give up work and return home. There he was fussed over by his mother, and he did not work again for weeks. Then the woodcutter asked his second son to go and cut down the tree for him. "Of course," said the lad, full of confidence. "I will take more care, and have the tree down in no time." His mother wrapped a fine, nutty cake for him that she had baked that morning, and gave him some wine to drink. When the second son reached the tree, he took one glance and sat down to eat before beginning his task. He took out the cake and the wine, and was just about to start his meal when he saw a little, old, gray-bearded man coming along the path towards him. "Good morning to you," said the little man. "Will you share your food with me? It's a very long time since I had a bite to eat or anything to drink." "Clear off," said the second son rudely, "I won't share my food with anyone. Be off with you." The little old man looked at him hard, then he disappeared into the forest, shaking his head as he went. Soon, his meal finished, the second son began work on the tree. As he lifted the axe, he thought of the little old man. "Fancy expecting me to give him some of my cake," he said to himself. "When I have finished this tree, I shall need 10 cakes." At first it was easy, and soon a pile of wood chips lay on the ground beside him. Then suddenly the axe slipped, cutting his leg so badly that he could scarcely drag himself home. Dumbling had watched his brothers go to the woods. He wanted to help his father, but knew that he would be laughed to scorn. Now was his chance. "Father, let me try," he begged. "I am sure I can cut down the tree for you." "Well, your brothers could not do it, so I am sure you can't, but a day in the forest won't hurt you. You'll learn sense when you cut yourself, but don't cut your head off," he added laughing. Dumbling was very pleased although his mother did not bake a special cake for him. "There's a piece of bread on the shelf," she said, "and here's some beer to wash it down." Dumbling set off down the path whistling to himself. He found the tree, and a little, old, gray-bearded man was standing beside it. "Good morning," the little man said, "I see you have some food with you. Will you share it with a hungry old man who has not eaten for days?" Dumbling felt sorry for the old man. He did look tired and hungry. "Of course, you are welcome to share my meal," he said. "But I am afraid it is not very much." Dumbling broke the bread in half and offered the beer to the old man as they sat together on the bank in the sunshine. Half an hour passed very happily, and Dumbling discovered that the little man was full of fun. Their laughter rang through the forest, startling the birds, and making the deer pause from cropping and look at them. Then the old man spoke. "You have been kind to me, so I will help you. Don't cut down the tree marked with a cross, cut down the tree over there instead, and among its roots you will find something very valuable." With a smile and a wave, the little old man went off down the forest path. Dummling picked up his axe and walked over to the tree the old man had pointed out. "Oh well, this one is as good as another," he said, and swung his axe. After a few swift strokes, the blade flashing in the sunlight, the great tree came crashing to the ground, and its roots were pulled out of the earth to lie in a tangled heap on the grass. In the roots, to Dummling open-mouthed astonishment, sat a goose with golden feathers. Carefully and gently, he lifted the bird, stroking its feathers, and he realized they were of pure gold. This certainly was something valuable, too valuable to take home to his greedy brothers. He tucked the bird under his arm and set off for the nearest inn. The innkeeper's daughters were full of curiosity as he showed them the goose, and told them that its feathers were golden. "Oh, for just one of those feathers," thought the eldest, and she planned how she might steal one. The woodcutting and excitement had made Dummling tired, so tucking his goose gently on the end of the bed, he fell asleep. He did not hear the door creak open and the innkeeper's eldest daughter steal into the room. She was determined to have one of those lovely, golden feathers. Swiftly, she seized the goose's tail and pulled. But, imagine her surprise when she found that she could not move her hand. It was stuck fast to the goose and no matter how she tried, she could not move it. The second daughter opened the door a crack and, like her sister, tried to snatch one of the gleaming feathers. But she, too, stuck firmly to the goose and no amount of pushing and pulling would free her. At last the third daughter came to try her luck. But soon she joined her sisters and they all spent a very uncomfortable night in Dumling's room while he slept peacefully in his bed. Next morning, Dummling picked up his goose without even looking, so he did not notice the three girls clinging to its feathers. He set off down the road at a brisk pace, whistling merrily and the poor girls had to run to keep up with him. When he stopped, they stopped, all bumping into each other, and when he turned right, they turned right. Wherever he went, they had to follow. They cried out for help, and the parson, who was in his garden, hurried out to see what was the trouble. "Shame on you!" he cried, thinking the girls were chasing Dummling, and he tried to pull them away. But he, too, was stuck fast and was soon running along behind the girls and Dummling. It was a very strange sight indeed. As the little procession crossed the path in front of the church, the verger came running out, holding up his hands. "Vicar, vicar," he cried, "where are you going? Don't forget you have a christening at noon." And he took a firm grip on the parson's arm. He could not free himself, but, as he ran along behind the others, he called out to some men in a field. "Help! Help! Do something!" The men left their work and rushed up to the verger, but when they tried to pull him free, they, too, were stuck fast. No matter how they twisted and turned, and pulled and pushed, all 7 of them were running along behind Dummling and his goose. Without once looking back, for he was so happy, Dummling ran along the winding road, hopping and skipping and singing merrily to himself, while the luckless girls, the parson, the verger and the 2 farm men, hurried along behind. At last they came to a beautiful city where the king lived in a fine castle. They could just see its battlements, with a flag flying from the topmost tower, as they hurried along. The king had a daughter of whom he was very fond, but she also made him very unhappy. She was so sad that she never, ever laughed. In desperation, the king had decreed that whoever made the princess laugh or smile would win her hand in marriage. At the castle gate was a large notice bearing this legend: "Whoever makes the king's daughter laugh or smile wins her hand in marriage." By order of the king. "How about that?" said Dummling to himself as he entered the city. "So, the princess does not smile. I must see if I can cheer her up." The princess was sitting by one of the castle windows as Dummling and his odd procession came through the gates. When she saw a young man, carrying a bright, golden goose under his arm and 3 girls, a parson, a verger and 2 farm workers in their smocks, trailing behind, all stuck fast, Each to each, she burst out laughing. Dumpling looked up and, seeing her, gave a cheery wave. "It is a miracle," cried the courtiers. "The princess is smiling, no, she is laughing. The king must be told." And they ran to tell the king the good news. Now the princess was laughing so much, everyone thought she would never stop. The tears ran down her face, and all she could do was point to Dumpling and his followers, and laugh and laugh and laugh. "He is the winner," cried the crowd, pushing Dumpling forward. "He made the princess laugh, and he must marry her." Everyone was laughing and cheering and waving. Once inside the castle, the spell broke and the innkeeper's daughters, the parson, the verger and the 2 farm workers were all free. They all ran home before any more harm could befall them. When the king saw Dumpling, he did not like the idea of letting him marry his daughter. After all, Dumpling was only the son of a poor woodcutter, even if he had made the princess happy. So the king said that Dumpling had to perform another task before he could win the princess's hand. "What is it?" asked Dumpling. "You must bring me someone who can drink a whole cellar full of wine," said the king. "That'll fix him," he said to himself, rubbing his hands. "I will see if I can find someone," said Dumpling, and left the castle and went back to the forest. There, as he had hoped, the little old man was sitting on the tree stump. "I have such a thirst," the old man said, "I could drink the sea dry, then all the rivers and all the streams." "Could you drink a cellar full of wine?" asked Dumpling. "A cellar full of wine?" laughed the little man. "Show me where it is. There is nothing better than wine when you are as thirsty as I am." So Dumpling took the little old man back to the castle and to the king's cellar, which was brimming with wine. The casks of red and white wine were set in rows all along the walls, and Dumpling did not think that anyone, especially anyone so small as his friend, could possibly drink it all. When evening came, the old man had emptied every cask in the cellar. The king was very angry, because his trick had failed and now he had no wine left. "All the wine is drunk," said Dumpling, "and now I come to claim your daughter's hand in marriage." The king stroked his beard. He had another idea. "There is another task to perform. Find me someone who can eat a mountain of bread." And the king went away laughing. Dumpling returned to the tree in the forest, and there, once again, he found the little, old, gray-bearded man. This time, he looked very sad, and Dumpling asked him what was troubling him. "I am so hungry," he sighed, "that I think I could eat a mountain. I have eaten more than 100 rolls already today, and look at my clothes, they hang on me like a sack." "Follow me," said Dumpling, and took him back to the castle where, by the king's order, a mountain of bread was waiting. Dumpling gasped at the pile of crispy, crunchy-topped loaves, but the old man breathed in their smell with delight. Hour after hour, the little man ate the bread, and the mountain grew smaller and smaller until there was not one crumb left. "The mountain of bread is eaten, not a crumb remains, so I have come to claim the princess," said Dumpling to the king. "Just a moment," said the king, "there is one more thing you have to do." And he sat and thought about it. "Find me a ship that will sail on land as well as on water," he said, finally. "Then, you can marry the princess." Dumpling hurried back to the forest and told the little old man of the impossible task the king had set him. "I'll never marry the princess now," Dumpling said, and for once he was not smiling. "Leave it to me," said the old man. "You helped me, and, for the sake of your kind heart, I will help you again." So he gave Dumpling a marvelous ship that could sail on land as well as water. It was a fine vessel with white, silken sails that billowed to and fro in the breeze. On the sea, the ship rose and fell like a great swan on a pond. On the land it moved just as easily, for the little old man had fitted magic wheels to propel it along the roads. The king was delighted with his ship, for no other king, anywhere, could boast such a thing, and he was happy to give his daughter in marriage to Dumpling. He had proved himself a worthy man to marry her. The whole land rejoiced at the wedding celebrations, but Dumpling insisted that the guest of honor should be the little, old, gray-bearded man who had helped him. He made him sit at the top table and made sure he was served only the finest wines and the best food. All the people who had been stuck to the goose came too, and there was singing and dancing for hours till the castle rang with happiness. In due time, Dummling became king, and he was a very good and wise one. He never forgot the little old man of the forest, but though he often looked for him, he never found him again. The end.